Today's Evening First Alert Weather Show is brought to you by Bresky Siding.
And good Monday evening, Mid-Michigan. Chief Meteorologist Chris Eastlink with your Monday forecast update and frankly, a look at the week ahead. Some things to talk about here as we look toward the next couple of days and also as we head towards the end of the week. Could be another chance at some accumulating snow. Right now it doesn't seem like a big deal, but we'll talk about it. And then we also have some snow that is currently moving through the area tonight, along with the fact that we have some warmer temperatures this week relative to what we've been seeing. So we have started to see some improvement. We'll talk about when there could possibly be a pattern change and what we're kind of looking at with ice coverage and maybe the possibility of what we'll have on the Wednesday live stream. So let's just take a quick look at what's going on tonight. Good to see some of the usuals there in the comment section. Good to see you, Linda. Good to see you, Wendy. Definitely felt a little bit better on Sunday, I noticed, with the sunshine out. Even just a little bit of sunshine and temperatures right around the 20s were doing much better. But today it still felt pretty chilly because we had the cloud cover around and we also had some snow falling. That snow seems to be lightening up. However, it is causing some slowdowns on the roads, as you would expect. It is fluffier, and of course, as temperatures drop tonight, we are seeing it stick to some area roads pretty easily. It doesn't look like we're in dire straits by any stretch, but we do have some areas that are a bit slower than others, especially around Saginaw County into Tuscola and down to Genesee, and also a few slowdowns in and around Gratiot County as well. That's where we had a winter weather advisory. That was in place until 7 o'clock. That has been allowed to expire as scheduled, but still, again, a few trouble spots tonight. It looks like some of those go up into Huron County as well. Definitely a slower commute earlier today with some of the snow that passed through earlier this morning. Here's a closer look at some of our southern areas around I-69, M21, M52. Going through Shiawassee County, and then, of course, also our northern counties as well. And keep in mind, this does not include back roads and side streets, so some of those can be a little dicier too. I know my neighborhood was still snow covered and still a little slippery this afternoon. When I got out to the main roads, they were fine. But that's, again, not the case necessarily everywhere. When I went out to grab dinner really quick, it seemed like some of the roads that were clear on my way into the station had snow covered again. And so just be mindful when you go into the morning drive tomorrow. I know many of us are probably in for the night anyway at this point, but I would still just be careful and keep that in mind. But at the same time, I know some of you are saying it is February, and it absolutely is February, and we should pretty much expect this by now, especially during this winter. So I'm not telling you anything that you don't already know. Good to see you, Cindy, Sherry, Stacy, and Tammy, as well as Crystal. Let's see, Stacy, Ogama County, just under an inch here. Yeah, it seems like we're kind of chipping away here and there, but shouldn't get too much more from this point forward. Seems like we're losing a little bit of intensity. If we take a look at the hour-by-hour forecast really quick, we're going to try to be efficient on the stream tonight. We've got what's out there with snow right now, and later on this evening, you can see the southwesterly winds that are right here. And you can see the northwesterly winds here, and this is overnight. This is Tuesday at 3:30, where these areas of wind are meeting. We call that a convergence zone, where we sort of have a collision. Well, what happens with that is where that wind shift happens, we've got that cold front coming through, and that little collision forces air upward. So what you're seeing is a few more snow showers overnight. Now, these are not expected to be heavy or anything like that. I would expect generally from this point forward about a ½ inch or less of new snow. Those will move out pretty quickly. And then as we get into Tuesday afternoon, I think we'll have a chance at some mixed clouds and sunshine. It should be a pretty nice day tomorrow. And notice those temperatures back in the 20s for Tuesday. So we are not expecting to be overly chilly tomorrow. The wind chill probably closer to the teens, but I think the teens compared to where we have been a lot of days recently are probably going to be no trouble at all to get through. It'll be cold, of course, but not quite the below zero wind chills that we've had. Good to see Jerry on tonight, Teresa, David, Tara, John, Chris, Jordan. Good to have you on the stream. We got 55 people on tonight, which for a fairly quiet weather night, not too bad. As this cold front passes through tonight, and we get our temperatures to drop, I think we'll stay pretty steady in the teens. I don't expect us dropping too far. I think we'll have some cloud cover overnight, which prevents that. And then I don't think our wind will relax entirely, so that wind will probably keep things up a little bit as well. And then highs tomorrow, there's the lower and middle 20s, so we're still technically below average, but we're at least climbing a little bit closer to that. And I do think there are some days in the extended forecasts that we will get to average, and we'll show you that here in just a moment. There is one thing that I do want to show you, though, later this week, is we do have a system that is on the way for Friday. And I started to see this getting talked a little bit about last week, and started to get some social media noise out of this. And it does come through at a less than ideal time. It seems like every time this year we get it through the morning commute. But I do think on Thursday there's a chance at some lake effect snow, and it probably won't look like this. Keep in mind the weather data we use in order to go out farther, because they only have so much computing power. And in order to go out farther to that Thursday and Friday time frame, we need more power to get us that far. What we gain in distance, in time, we lose the sharpness of the image. And so instead of looking like this hour by hour forecast here, I'll come back to that, but instead of looking at this where it's a little bit more detailed and you get, you can almost see some of the shapes of the clouds in here and stuff like that. With this, because we're going farther out in time, we can't use as much energy and computing power to get the sharpest possible image. So it will not look like this big blob of snow on Thursday morning. I think there's a chance we could get some scattered snow showers, but I don't think it's going to be something that covers the entire area. Once we get into Thursday night, I think you'll start to see things return. And I think this is where you could get more of a widespread snow coming through, especially as we get closer to the early morning hours of your Friday. Seems like we've got a pretty good area of snow Friday morning. Again, there might be some gaps in the coverage. It may not be covering the entire lower peninsula like it shows here, but what this does tell me is there's at least a likely chance of snow for a good chunk of the region. And of course, Friday morning at 7 o'clock, that's a less than ideal time for that snow to come through. And so we'll be watching this closely. But it does seem like it moves out pretty quickly. It's already making its exit by 9. It's pretty much gone by the afternoon, outside of maybe a few scattered snow showers that come in behind that. Now, we haven't necessarily looked at snowfall amounts with this yet, just because it's so far out in time. But what I will tell you is we kind of look at probabilities for this, and let me see if I can pull up some of that. And we kind of see what is the most likely scenario. And while I'm looking at that, good to see you, Gwendolyn. Good to see you, John, as always, from Port Austin. John gives me some good reports out of the Port Austin area, a place that we need them. Anytime we can get reports from the Thumb, we're always appreciative of that. But what we do look at is we look at probabilities, and it's a way for us to look farther out in time without necessarily over-promising as much as we can. And so I'll pull this up here in a minute. But this goes through, let me see. Got to get the right one. Here we go. So if I were to go from, I'll pull this up. This image right here. So what this says is this is the European model, and it runs itself about 50 different times. And what you see with the European model on TV when we show it sometimes is basically what is the average of all of those 50 different times that it runs. What is the average result? That is what you see on TV. Or if we were just to show you what amount of snow the European model is projecting for a place like Saginaw, Michigan, it's all of these different things averaged together. However, these ensembles are what we can look at. You can see up here if you can read it. I know it might be tough to see, but this says probability of 24 hours of snowfall greater than 1 inch. And so just talking about 1 inch of snow for Friday, the percentages are high. If you look at the little legend here at the bottom, Light orange is about 70 to 80. Dark orange is about 80 to 90. And maroon is 90 to 100. So from Thursday afternoon to Friday afternoon, when pretty much most of the snow would be over, a lot of it would fall between that, this isn't even giving us a certainty of 1 inch of snow or more. And so I know there might have been some social media noise about this coming Friday last week, but I don't necessarily think it's a sure thing that we're looking at, a massive snow or anything like that. And if you jump up to 3 inches of snow, the probabilities just completely disappear. So if we go back to 1, it shows that. And if I even look at the American model, let me adjust this a little bit because it had a slightly different timing. But the American GFS is only giving us about a 50 to 60% chance to get over 1 inch of snow. In the Canadian model, which we use on occasion as well, is similar to the European model in the fact that it's only giving us about a 70 to 80% chance at the most. And so does that mean we can't see change? No. And what you should know about those models is they automatically default to 10 inches of snowfall for every 1 inch of snow. It's not guaranteed that we have that ratio of snowfall later this week. We could have a slightly fluffier snow. So for instance, it could be 12 to 1, 14, 15 to 1. Or it could even be lower than that. But if it's say 15 to 1, okay, then maybe we've got a better chance at 1 inch of snow, but that's still not going to make the difference between, I would say, good odds to get 1 inch versus getting anything over 3. So right now, I would say I think a couple of inches of snow on Friday, certainly reasonable. But I would avoid thinking that this is going to be something major on Friday as far as the amount of snow. I think it will be inconvenient. And I think the timing has a chance to perhaps give us maybe a winter weather advisory on the lower end just because it'll be a nuisance for the morning drive. Again, this is 6 a.m. on Friday. But this doesn't look like anything that's going to produce, at least as of now, anything that's, major as far as snowfall. So we'll kind of watch that as we go through this week. And of course, things can change. They have before. But I would say, is it something that, we're going to put an alert day on or anything like that for now? Not at the moment. So we'll keep our close eye on that. And then another thing is we have our ice coverage, which is up to about 54.5%. And I think what's noteworthy is now some of this ice is not quite as solid. But at this point on Lake Huron, there's very little open water. And Lake Erie is nearly frozen over at this point. And even Lake Ontario last week was struggling to get ice on it. Lake Ontario a little deeper, of course, than Lake Erie. But Lake Ontario, Lake Michigan, and Lake Superior, compared to some of the streams that we did last week, those are significant changes. And so that cold air is really starting to take hold. And so I know we've had a lot of shanties out recently. Looks like people are taking advantage. I still think you've got some good weather for the most part this week. We warm up a little bit more, I think, on Friday, where we've got 30s, but then it's right back down to the teens this weekend for Saturday and Sunday. And then early next week, it looks like the potential is there for us to start a little bit more on the colder side. Monday's only about 22. What's going to be interesting Wednesday, if we can make it happen, for those of you who have seen the Facebook page before or he's been on our air occasionally, I'll probably have an interview with the airborne angler. Marty goes out with his own plane and he takes observations of the ice. He shares those on Facebook. It's a great service that he does. So I'm going to have him on Wednesday if we can make it work. He's generous enough to give me some of his time. And maybe we'll have a chance to share some pictures or just kind of his thoughts on what he's been seeing, especially now that it's been cold and we're really building that ice coverage up. So I'm looking forward to talking to him if we can make that happen. Even if we can't this week for some reason, it looks good for Wednesday, but even if we can't, sounds like we'll have a chance to do that very soon. I'm interested to see kind of how things evolve with another week of largely below average temperatures. I'm really interested to see how high that can go. as far as the percentage of ice. Wendy asks, are there going to be school closings on Friday? Wendy, I don't believe so as of now. I believe that we will have a inconvenient morning commute, but I do not think it's going to be something that is going to be enough to close schools. That's my thought based on what I'm seeing today, but we'll see. Stacy asks, might be a dumb question, but what is fast ice? Fast ice is just ice that is sort of fastened to the shoreline. It is anchored. It does not move. It's not something that's going to freely move around. So think of the Saginaw Bay. You've got a really strong ice area right now, at least according to the map, where we've got mostly that gray shading right here. If I can zoom in on this, you can see it a little bit better. But it's in these areas here where you've got more of a solid sheet. Now, again, this is a very general overview, so you always have to be careful for anybody watching this who does plan on going out. But this means that the ice in this area is fastened to the land. So that's where it comes from. It does not drift with the currents or anything like that. Now, it can always be busted loose pretty easily. We get a windy day sometimes, and you can see that ice shift around pretty easy. But fast ice just means that it's fastened to the shoreline. But that's a really good question. And lastly, last graphic I'll show you before our stream comes to an end tonight is for those hoping for a little bit of relief or to, at the very least, just see some temperatures close to freezing again. I do think as we go towards the middle and end of next week, there is a chance that we could be looking at temperatures that are primarily in the 30s. And this is the Climate Prediction Center's outlook, which matches the data that I looked at today. Pretty much all of the models that go into next week, temperature-wise, have the same trend, so we're fairly confident in that. It seems like there's varying degrees of just how far into the 30s we get, but they're all showing a warm-up. And so I do think there's a chance next week could be a little bit warmer towards the middle and end of it. Doesn't necessarily mean 50s or even 40s, but I think we could be in the mid-30s some of those days, and I think there's a chance we could be in the upper 30s. And as always, as we get closer, it might become more clear that maybe we can sneak into the 40s, but we'll see what happens. That is not a, the 40s part of that is not necessarily a guarantee, but sometimes as we get closer, the magnitude of the warm-up becomes a little bit more clear. But I think it's fair to say that next week we'll have some 30s on the 7-day forecast, unless there is a significant change going into next week. So I'll show you the 7-day one more time. Again, please be careful on the roads late tonight and tomorrow if you are headed out. Again, I'm sure most of us are going to be in for the night, but they are slippery in spots. And we'll be watching Thursday into Friday for our next round of snow. But if you're just joining the stream, I don't think Thursday into Friday right now is going to be anything like 6 inches of snow or anything like that. We'll let you know if that changes, but right now it seems like I would say probably an inch or two of snow, maybe 3 in some spots. But I wouldn't necessarily say it's winter storm warning worthy or anything like that. Colton, do you think Michigan will get a big snowstorm in February? I guess it depends, Colton, what you would define as a snowstorm. Are we going to get another storm that, brings 6+ inches somewhere? I would say just climatologically speaking, the odds are probably pretty good. Of course, you never really know, but it always seems like once we get into February and March, some years come to an end quicker than others, but it always seems like we get at least one more in this last stretch here. So we'll see what happens. But I will tell you this, I will take any amount of snow over any ice. So I hope that stays away. After seeing what happened in northern Michigan last year and after seeing what's happened in other parts of the country this year, I want nothing to do with it. So if Mother Nature is going to bring me snow every single day for the next couple of months, if it means I can avoid freezing rain, I think she's got a deal. I might be alone in that, but I don't think there will be many who disagree. Freezing rain is the worst, so I'm hoping we can avoid that as much as possible. So thanks to everybody for joining the stream tonight. Our 10 o'clock newscast is coming up, so I have to hop off here. Of course, we will be doing more streams as we go throughout this week. And of course, as we go towards Friday, we'll have more details on that. And we'll be updating you throughout the week. Until next time, thank you guys for watching. And we will see you next time at 9 o'clock. See you then.